For 40 years, a killer slept peacefully in his quiet California home while detectives chased ghosts. His face was a sketch taped to a precinct wall. His name was a string of nicknames whispered in fear. Then a small plastic tube and a few drops of spit cracked the case wide open. The trail led to a 72-year-old former police officer named Joseph James DeAngelo. What happened next changed how police hunt the worst people on Earth. And it started with one investigator who refused to give up and a website almost no one had heard of. But before getting to that website, here is the question that haunted California for decades. Who was this man, and why could nobody catch him? His crime spree began in 1974 in Visalia. Locals called him the Visalia Ransacker. He broke into homes and stole strange things. A single earring, a photo of a child. Then he moved north to Sacramento and changed his pattern. Police started calling him the East Area Rapist. He attacked sleeping couples in their beds. He tied them up with shoelaces. He stacked dishes on the man's back so any movement would crash to the floor. He drank their beer. He made phone calls from their phones. By 1979, he had moved south to Goleta, Ventura, and Irvine. There he earned another name, the original Night Stalker. Now he was killing. Couples bound and shot. Husbands beaten to death with fireplace logs. Wives strangled in their beds. In total, 13 murders, more than 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries between 1974 and 1986. He murdered Lyman and Charlene Smith in their Ventura home in 1980, leaving rope tied in a diamond knot so unusual that detectives kept it secret for decades. Then in May 1986, his last known victim, 18-year-old Janelle Cruz, was found beaten to death in her Irvine home. After that, the killings stopped cold. The trail went dark for 32 years. How could a man this violent just vanish? Here is the answer that made detectives sick. He had been a cop. Joseph DeAngelo worked as a police officer in Exeter and later Auburn, California during the early years of his crime spree. He knew exactly how police investigated cases. He wore masks and gloves. He stalked his targets for weeks. He cut phone lines. He hid weapons in the bushes near their homes so he could attack again on another night. He was fired from the Auburn force in 1979 after being caught shoplifting a hammer and a can of dog repellent from a drugstore. After that, he vanished into a regular life. He married a lawyer named Sharon Huddle. They raised 3 daughters. He worked as a truck mechanic. Neighbors in Citrus Heights, California, knew him as a grouchy older man who yelled at kids who cut across his lawn. He gardened, he fit in. He hid in plain sight. And he might have died with the secret if not for one woman who refused to let the case die. Her name was Michelle McNamara. She was a true crime writer who became obsessed with the case in 2011. She is the one who first labeled him the Golden State Killer. She wrote a book called I'll Be Gone in the Dark. She died in her sleep in 2016, 2 years before the killer was caught. Her husband finished her book. 6 weeks after the book hit shelves in early 2018, officers were knocking on DeAngelo's door. So what finally cracked the case? The breakthrough came from retired detective Paul Holes and forensic genetic genealogist Barbara Ray Venter. They had DNA from old crime scenes. It was useless in the regular FBI database because the killer had never been entered into the system. So Holes and Ray Venter tried something new. They uploaded the killer's DNA profile to a public genealogy website called GEDmatch. It works much like 23andMe and Ancestry. Normal people use it to find long-lost cousins. Investigators used it to find a murderer. The website did not spit out a name. It spit out distant matches. 3rd and 4th cousins he had never met. Ray Venter built a family tree from those matches. She traced backwards through marriages and births and old census records. Out of more than 1,000 possible names, one stood out. A man the right age. A man who had lived in the right places. A man with a military background and a former badge. Joseph James DeAngelo. Police followed him. They watched him. Then they pulled a discarded tissue from his trash and lifted DNA off the door handle of his car. The lab ran the samples. The match was perfect. April 24, 2018. Officers knocked at his door in Citrus Heights. The 72-year-old man stepped outside in shorts and a thin t-shirt. He looked stunned. His daughter and granddaughter were inside. They had no idea who lived under their roof. The hunt was over. But the story did not end with handcuffs. What kind of justice can ever fit a crime this big? He was charged with 13 counts of first-degree murder, along with dozens of related counts. Prosecutors offered a deal to avoid the death penalty. The families agreed. In August 2020, because of the pandemic, his guilty plea happened in a college ballroom in Sacramento. He sat in a wheelchair, looking frail, head bowed. Survivors lined up over 4 days to read statements at him. One woman told him she still wakes up at 3 a.m. every night because that was the hour he used to attack. Another said she could still smell him after 40 years. The judge handed down 11 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 15 more life terms stacked on top. Today, he sits inside California State Prison in Corcoran, the same place that once held Charles Manson. Justice took 40 years, but it came. And here is the part most viewers do not realize. The Golden State Killer was only the beginning. Since 2018, the same DNA detective work has cracked more than 600 cold cases across the United States. The Buckskin Girl mystery, the I-65 killer, the Bear Brook murders, the Christmas Eve killing of 8-year-old April Tinsley. Killers who believed they had escaped are getting their doors kicked in decades later. Some are 80 years old. The badges still find them. And here is what makes it terrifying for every monster still walking free. They do not need to be in the system themselves. They just need one distant cousin who swabbed her cheek for fun on Black Friday and clicked send. One relative can light up an entire family tree. A killer can no longer outrun his own blood. And what about DeAngelo's own family? His 3 daughters and the wife he lived with for decades had no idea. His wife Sharon had separated from him years before the arrest, but they had never officially divorced. After the arrest, she released a single statement asking for privacy. His daughters have never spoken publicly. They moved out of state. They changed phone numbers. Reporters who tried to knock on doors were met with closed blinds. The arrest did not just end DeAngelo's freedom. It cracked a family in half overnight. The granddaughter who lived in that house in Citrus Heights was a normal college student before April 24, 2018. After that date, her last name became famous for the wrong reason. She had to carry a stranger's nightmare for the rest of her life. Somewhere tonight, a man sleeps peacefully, thinking the past is buried. He's wrong. His granddaughter just got a DNA kit for her birthday. If you made it this far, subscribe for more true crime. Like and share. The next case is even darker.